The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched wider than any Earth stadium. Its walls curved up into darkness, covered with floating screens that showed star maps from across the known galaxy. Ambassador Chen walked through the massive doors, her footsteps echoing on the crystal floor. She was small compared to most of the alien beings around her, but she kept her head high. The council chamber held representatives from 47 different worlds. The void singers floated near the ceiling, their bodies made of living crystal that sang whenever they moved. The ancient Celestari sat in pools of liquid metal, their true forms hidden beneath silver robes. The Draconians stood 8 feet tall with scales that changed color with their moods, currently showing purple stripes of amusement. At the center of it all sat High Chancellor Vortek of the Krothek Empire. His 4 arms rested on a throne made from the bones of conquered species. His 6 eyes focused on Chen as she approached the speaking platform. The human representative wishes to address the council, Vortek announced. His voice sounded like grinding stone. How amusing. Tell us, little Chen, what crisis has Earth invented this time? Laughter rippled through the chamber. The translator in Chen's ear converted dozens of different types of alien laughter into something her brain could understand. It all meant the same thing. They thought humanity was a joke. Chen activated the holographic display beside her. A map of local space appeared, showing Earth's solar system surrounded by red markers. The Krothek Empire has placed military outposts within 2 light years of Earth. Their scout ships have violated our space 17 times this month. We request the Council's protection under Article 7 of the Membership Charter. Vortek's scales rippled with what Chen recognized as joy. Protection? Earth wants protection? He stood from his throne, all 12 feet of him. What has Earth contributed to this council? No advanced technology, no military ships, no rare resources. You gave us music and paintings, poetry and philosophy. These things do not stop warships. The Celestari representative spoke, its voice like liquid mercury. Earth has been a member for 50 years. In that time, you have shown no ability to defend yourselves. You have 1 colony on Mars, a few mining stations around Jupiter. Your fastest ships would take decades to reach the nearest star. Why should we waste resources protecting such a primitive world? Chen remained calm. She had expected this, because we are members of this council. The charter promises protection to all members regardless of their technological level. A void singer descended from the ceiling, its crystalline body chiming with each movement. The charter also states that worlds must contribute to their own defense. Earth has no fleet, no energy weapons, no shields. You still use chemical rockets and nuclear fission. You are centuries behind everyone else in this room. We have contributed what we can, Chen said. Our scientists work on theoretical physics that might one day, Vortek interrupted. The Krothek Empire controls 300 star systems today. Not someday, today. He turned to address the full council. I move that Earth be reclassified as a non-essential world. They can keep their membership, but they receive no military protection. The vote happened quickly. 46 lights appeared above the council members' seats. 46 green lights. Only Chen's red light stood against them. The motion passes, the automated voice announced. Earth is now classified as a non-essential world. Vortek's eyes gleamed with hunger. Without council protection, Earth falls under open territory rules. Any civilization may claim it. The Krothek Empire will begin mining operations on Earth within 30 days. Your population will be relocated to serve as workers. It is more than you deserve. Chen picked up her data pad and started walking toward the exit. The council expected her to beg, to plead, to offer desperate bargains. Instead, she stopped at the door and turned back. You mistake our kindness for weakness, she said. Her voice carried through the silent chamber. We shared our art because we thought you might appreciate beauty. We shared our philosophy because we hoped you understood wisdom. We did not share our weapons because we prayed we would never need them. The Draconian general laughed, his scales flashing orange with mockery. Empty threats from a toothless species. What weapons could Earth possibly have that we fear? Chen smiled. It was not a happy smile. You assume we showed you everything. You assume our colony on Mars is just a colony. You assume our mining stations are just mining stations. You assume that a species capable of splitting the atom stopped there because we couldn't go further. Not because we chose not to. Enough with these games, Vortek snarled. Earth has 30 days. Use them to prepare your surrender. Perhaps if you beg, we will be merciful. We will use them to prepare, Chen agreed, but not for surrender. She walked through the doors, leaving behind a chamber full of laughter. The translator in her ear picked up fragments of conversation. Humans and their pride, someone said. They still think nuclear weapons mean something, another added. 30 days is generous. They will surrender in 10. Chen reached her ship, a small diplomatic vessel that looked like a toy compared to the warships docked nearby. She sat in the pilot seat and opened a secure communication channel. The encryption was so complex that even the Council's best codebreakers would need 1,000 years to crack it. A face appeared on her screen. Admiral Sarah Reeves looked tired but determined. How did it go? As expected, Chen replied. They voted to abandon us. The Krathek claim they will take Earth in 30 days. Then it's time. Chen nodded. Activate Protocol Prometheus. All restrictions lifted. Understood. How much should we show them? Chen thought about the laughter in the council chamber. The mockery. The dismissal of everything humanity had offered in peace. Everything. Show them everything. That might cause some civilizations to collapse. Then they should have thought of that before abandoning their principles. Earth joined this council hoping to find wisdom among the stars. Instead, we found bullies with bigger guns. Time to show them what humans do to bullies. Admiral Reeves nodded. Prometheus will be ready in 72 hours. God help them all. Chen ended the communication and began plotting her course back to Earth. Outside her window, the massive Krathek dreadnoughts floated like metal mountains. Each one could destroy a moon. Vortek's personal flagship was larger than Manhattan. They all thought size meant power. They all thought age meant wisdom. They all thought humanity's kindness meant weakness. In 3 days, they would learn how wrong they were. The small diplomatic ship engaged its engines and disappeared into hyperspace. Behind it, the council members returned to their regular business, discussing trade routes and territory disputes. The matter of Earth was already forgotten. After all, what could one small primitive world do against the might of the galaxy? On Earth's moon, ancient systems that had waited centuries began to wake up. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in caverns that no telescope could see, lights began to turn on. Massive doors that had been sealed since before humanity officially reached the stars started receiving power. The Prometheus was waking up, and when it rose, the galaxy would never be the same. The Krathek Empire had conquered 300 star systems through force. The Draconians had built their realm on the ashes of dead civilizations. The Void Singers had watched 1,000 species rise and fall, never lifting a finger to help. They all believed might made right. They all believed the strong should dominate the weak. Humanity had spent 3,000 years preparing for this moment. Not the moment when they would conquer, but the moment when they would have to stand up to conquerors. The moment when someone would have to say enough. That moment had come. In the council chamber, Vortek returned to his throne of bones. Begin mobilizing the 5th Fleet, he told his aide. I want 10,000 ships ready to take Earth. It will be a good addition to our empire. His aide bowed and left to relay the orders. Vortek had no idea that Earth was already preparing its response. 1 ship against 10,000, it would be more than enough. Space around Earth seemed normal at first. Cargo ships moved between the planet and its colonies. The space station orbited peacefully. Mining vessels collected ice from Saturn's rings. Nothing suggested that humanity was about to reveal its greatest secret. Then the gravitational sensors started screaming. On Zirion Prime, a young Krathek technician named Dalvor stared at his screen in confusion. The readings made no sense. Massive gravitational waves were spreading from Earth's solar system, but they followed no known pattern. They bent space in ways that violated 12 different laws of physics. Senior technician, Dalvor called. You need to see this. The senior technician slithered over, his tentacles leaving trails of green mucus on the floor. What is it now? Another human satellite malfunction? No, sir. Look at these readings. Something massive is moving near Earth's moon. The senior technician studied the data. His 3 hearts began beating faster. This can't be right. According to this, something with the mass of a small mountain is moving, but there's nothing there. Our scouts mapped every inch of that moon. On a Void Singer meditation ship, the crystalline beings suddenly stopped their eternal song. They felt it through their quantum connection to space itself. Reality was bending. Something that had been hidden was revealing itself. The eldest void singer, a being older than some stars, focused its attention on Earth's moon. What it saw made its crystal body crack with shock. Impossible, it sang in frequencies only its kind could hear. The humans hid this from us. How did they hide this from us? The moon's surface began to change. What looked like ordinary craters and mountains started moving. Massive sections of lunar rock slid aside, revealing metal doors underneath. Each door was 5 kilometers wide. There were 20 of them, arranged in a perfect pattern across the moon's dark side. Admiral Sarah Reeves stood in the command center buried deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean. Hundreds of screens surrounded her, showing feeds from across the solar system. Her staff of 500 worked at their stations, all of them volunteers who had trained for this moment their entire lives. Prometheus. Bay doors at 30%, someone reported. Quantum core stable and responding, another added. Weapons systems beginning startup. Sequence. Reeves watched the main screen. The moon looked like it was giving birth. The massive doors continued to open, revealing darkness beneath. But it wasn't empty darkness. Something waited inside. Something huge. "Sir, we're getting communication requests from basically everyone," the communications officer said. "The Galactic Council, the Krathek Empire, the Void Singers, even the Celestari. They all want to know what's happening." "Ignore them all," Reeves ordered. "Open a channel to every inhabited system in the galaxy. Full spectrum broadcast. Make sure everyone hears this." The officer nodded. "Channel open." Reeves stepped forward. "This is Admiral Sarah Reeves of Earth. 3 days ago, the Galactic Council voted to classify our world as non-essential. The Krathek Empire announced plans to conquer and enslave our people. You believed we were weak. You believed we were primitive. You were wrong." She paused, letting her words spread across thousands of light years. "Humanity has been traveling the stars for 3,000 years. We discovered hyperspace travel before your oldest civilizations built their first cities. We chose to remain hidden, to develop in peace, to perfect our technology without interference. We joined your council 50 years ago as a test. We wanted to see if the galaxy's powers could coexist peacefully. You failed that test. On the moon, the first piece of the Prometheus emerged. A weapons array the size of a city pushed through one of the bay doors. It was covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at, as if the metal existed in more dimensions than the normal 3. For 3 millennia, we prepared for this moment. Reeves continued, not for conquest, but for the day when we would have to stand against conquerors. That day has come. You will now witness what humanity is truly capable of. The Prometheus continued to rise. Its hull was darker than space itself, absorbing light so completely that it looked like a hole in reality. 50 kilometers long, 20 kilometers wide, 15 kilometers tall. It was not just big. It was impossibly big. The amount of metal alone should have taken centuries to gather and forge. But the size was not what terrified the watching civilizations. It was the weapons. Every surface of the ship bristled with technologies that shouldn't exist. Dark matter cannons that could punch holes in reality. Graviton projectors that could crush a planet into a marble. Quantum torpedoes that existed in multiple timelines simultaneously, making them impossible to stop. On Vortex flagship, alarms shrieked. The ship's AI was having what could only be described as a panic attack. Warning: unknown vessel detected. Threat level extinction. Recommended action: immediate retreat. Vortex slammed his fist on his command throne. "Get me details." "What are we looking at?" His science officer's scales had turned white with fear. "Sir, the energy readings are impossible. That ship is generating more power than a star. Its weapons are based on theoretical physics that we dismissed as impossible centuries ago." "One ship," Vortex said. "They have one ship. We have 10,000. Sir, with respect, our entire fleet might not be enough." The Prometheus cleared the moon's surface completely. It hung in space like a nightmare made real. Then it did something that made every physicist in the galaxy question their sanity. It teleported, not through hyperspace, not through a wormhole. The ship simply stopped existing in one place and started existing in another. One moment it was at the moon. The next it was orbiting Jupiter. "Quantum entanglement drive," a human voice broadcast to the galaxy. "Every atom of our ship exists in multiple locations simultaneously. We can be anywhere instantly. Your hyperspace drives take hours or days. We take nanoseconds." To prove the point, the Prometheus teleported again. Earth, Mars, Neptune. Alpha Centauri. Back to Earth. 5 locations in 3 seconds. The Celestari were the first to truly understand. Their ancient minds grasped the implications immediately. A ship that could be anywhere instantly. Weapons that broke the laws of physics. Technology thousands of years ahead of anything in the galaxy. We wish to speak with Earth. The Celestari broadcast on all channels. Please, we wish to discuss terms. There will be time for discussion later, Reeves replied. First, a demonstration. The Krathek Empire has assembled 10,000 ships to conquer Earth. They are currently massing near Jupiter. Watch what one human ship can do to 10,000. Vortex communicator exploded with incoming messages from his fleet commanders. They were terrified. Some were already trying to retreat. But Vortex was emperor of 300 systems. He had never run from a fight. All ships. He commanded. Battle formation. Prepare to engage. It's still just one ship. The Krathek fleet formed up. 10,000 vessels, each one capable of devastating a world. Their combined firepower could crack open a star. The Prometheus teleported into their midst. What happened next took 17 seconds. The human ship activated its primary weapon. Space itself began to fold. The laws of physics bent and broke. Gravity increased a trillion-fold in a localized area. The Krathek fleet started compressing. Not exploding, not breaking apart. Compressing. 10,000 ships, millions of tons of metal and flesh, all pulled toward a single point. The screams of 1,000,000 Krathek soldiers echoed across communication channels before cutting off abruptly. When it was over, the entire fleet had been compressed into a sphere no larger than a basketball. The Prometheus caught it in a containment field and ejected it into a pocket dimension. Your fleet is not destroyed, Reeves announced. They exist outside normal spacetime, frozen but alive. They can be returned if you cooperate. Silence fell across the galaxy. 10,000 ships defeated in 17 seconds. By one human vessel, the Prometheus teleported again. Now it was at Xerion Prime, the Krathek homeworld. Weapons powered up but did not fire. You have 1 hour to surrender, Reeves said. Or we demonstrate what these weapons do to a planet. Then the impossible ship vanished again. It appeared at the Void Singer Sanctuary, then the Draconian Fortress world, the Celestari's ancient stronghold. 12 locations in 10 seconds. At each one it disabled defense grids without firing a shot, using quantum entanglement to simply turn off their technology. The message was clear. Humanity could end them all whenever they chose. The galaxy had discovered Earth's true nature, and for the first time in millennia, the powerful new fear. The Void Singers gathered in their most sacred space, a crystal cathedral floating in the void between galaxies. Their forms resonated with fear, creating discordant harmonies that hadn't been heard in 10,000 years. The eldest among them, a being whose crystalline body contained the light of dying stars, spoke in frequencies that shattered lesser crystals. We must test it, the elder sang. We must know if the human weapon can truly do what they claim. The younger singers protested in sharp, painful notes. Elder, our planet cracker is our ultimate deterrent. If it fails, we know we cannot fight them. If it succeeds, perhaps there is hope. The Void Singers had built their planet cracker 5 millennia ago. It was a weapon of last resort, a beam of pure energy that could split a world in half. No shield could stop it. No armor could withstand it. It had ended 3 different wars just by existing. They aimed it at the Prometheus. Admiral Reeves watched from her command center as the massive weapon powered up. Energy readings spiked across every sensor. Her crew tensed at their stations. Admiral, should we evade? Her tactical officer asked. No, let them fire. They need to understand. The planet cracker fired. A beam of brilliant white energy. Wider than a continent, faster than thought, hotter than a star's core. It struck the Prometheus directly and passed right through. The human ship flickered, becoming translucent for a moment. The beam went through it as if it wasn't there. Because in that moment, in that specific dimension, it wasn't. Phase shift technology, Reeves broadcast to the watching galaxy. We exist partially outside normal spacetime. Your weapons cannot touch us when we choose not to be touched. The Void Singers' harmony turned to chaos, their greatest weapon useless, their elder's crystalline form cracked with despair. We surrender, it sang across all frequencies. The Void Singers surrender unconditionally to Earth. But the Draconians were not ready to give up. Their warrior culture had never known defeat. General Thrace, supreme commander of the Draconian military, stood in his war room surrounded by his best strategists. "There's still just one ship," Thrace growled, his scales flashing red with anger. "We have antimatter bombs, quantum missiles, singularity weapons. We attack from all angles all at once. They can't phase shift forever." His strategists agreed. Within minutes, the entire Draconian fleet launched from their fortress world. 8,000 ships, each one armed with weapons that could erase matter from existence. They converged on the Prometheus from every direction. "Incoming," reported the sensor operator on the Prometheus. 8,000 vessels. They're firing everything." Reeves watched the tactical display with calm interest. "Activate temporal defense grid." The space around the Prometheus began to shimmer. Time itself became a weapon. Antimatter bombs fired at the ship entered temporal loops, exploding endlessly in the same second, never moving forward in time. Quantum missiles aged 1,000,000 years in an instant, their components decaying to dust. Singularity weapons found themselves trapped in bubbles where time moved backwards, unmaking themselves before they could form. The Draconian fleet fired for 10 straight minutes. Not a single weapon reached the Prometheus. Then the human ship responded. "Initiating graviton pulse," the weapons officer announced. A wave of distorted gravity expanded from the Prometheus. When it hit the Draconian ships, their engines died. Their weapons went silent. Their shields collapsed. The proud fleet drifted helplessly in space, their technology simply switched off. "We could destroy you," Reeves broadcast. "Every single ship. Every single life. But we choose not to. Your ships will regain power in 6 hours. Use that time to think about whether you want to continue this fight." General Thrace stood in his darkened bridge, emergency lights casting shadows across his scaled face. For the first time in his life, he felt true helplessness. His scales shifted to gray, the color of surrender. The Celestari had watched everything. Their ancient minds, which had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations, understood what others did not. This was not just superior technology. This was technology that should not exist, could not exist according to everything they knew about physics. In their liquid metal pools, the Celestari elders communed through quantum entanglement. Thoughts moved between them faster than light. The humans have broken the universe's rules, one thought. Or they found new rules. Another replied. "We must try," the eldest decided. One last test. The Celestari had not fought a war in 10,000 years, but they had not been idle. Deep beneath their world's surface, they had built the ultimate defensive weapon, a machine that could manipulate fundamental forces, alter the laws of physics in a localized area. It was their masterpiece, their guarantee that they would never be conquered. They activated it against the Prometheus. Space around the human ship began to warp. Not just bend, but fundamentally change. The speed of light shifted. Gravity reversed. The strong nuclear force weakened. In that region of space, the universe itself was being rewritten. Any normal ship would have been torn apart at the subatomic level. The Prometheus simply adapted. "Interesting," Reeves said. "They're trying to alter local physics. Activate the quantum stabilizers." The ship's hull began to glow with equations, not painted on but somehow existing as part of the metal itself. Mathematical formulas that described reality, forcing it to maintain consistency. The Celestari's weapon fought against them, trying to change the rules. The Prometheus fought back, insisting that rules remain rules. For 30 seconds, the two technologies battled. Reality itself groaned under the strain. Then the Celestari's machine exploded. Not a normal explosion, but a cascade failure that unmade it from existence as if it had never been built. The eldest Celestari broadcast a single message. "We yield." The Celestari civilization yields to Earth. Across the galaxy, the pattern repeated. The hegemony fired their stellar converter at the Prometheus. The ship absorbed the energy and fired it back, turning their weapon into a small sun that they had to contain before it consumed their station. They surrendered. The Zephyr Collective sent their nanoswarm, trillions of microscopic machines designed to devour anything in their path. The Prometheus released a single pulse of encoded information that reprogrammed the entire swarm to return home and shut down. The Zephyr asked for terms. The Makari tried to hack the ship's systems with quantum computers that could process infinite calculations. They found themselves locked out of their own networks, with a message displayed on every screen. "Please try again never." They begged for mercy. Hour by hour, civilization by civilization, the galaxy's powers discovered the truth. Earth's single ship was unstoppable. Not just powerful, but operating on principles so far advanced that fighting it was like ants trying to stop a starship. On Vortek's throne world, panic ruled. The Emperor, who had conquered 300 systems, paced his throne room, his forearms gesturing wildly as he screamed at his advisors. There must be a weakness. One ship cannot be invincible. His chief scientist cowered before him. Lord, their technology is thousands of years ahead of ours. They manipulate space-time like we manipulate matter. They treat the laws of physics as suggestions. We cannot fight this, then we run. Evacuate the leadership. We'll regroup in the outer territories. Lord, his intelligence chief interrupted. The human ship just appeared in 12 of our systems simultaneously. The same ship. In 12 places. At the same time. Vortek's scales turned black with terror. That's impossible. The humans make their own definition of possible. A hologram appeared in the throne room. Admiral Reeves stood there looking calm and professional. Emperor Vortek, you have lost your entire invasion fleet. Your allies have surrendered. Your weapons are useless. You threaten to enslave Earth's population. What do you think happens now? Vortek fell to his knees. The Emperor, who had never bowed to anyone, pressed his head to the floor. Please, mercy. The Krathic Empire surrenders. We surrender everything, just please. Your surrender is noted, Reeves said. Stand by for terms. The hologram vanished. Across 300 Krathic systems, the same scene played out. The Prometheus appeared in orbit of each inhabited world. It did nothing, simply hung there, a silent reminder that resistance was futile. In less than 24 hours, every major military power in the galaxy had been defeated, not through massacre or destruction, but through demonstration. The Prometheus had shown them the truth. Humanity could end them all, but chose not to. Now came the hard part. What would Earth do with its victory? The emergency session of the Galactic Council looked nothing like the meeting from 3 days ago. Gone was the laughter, the casual dismissal, the arrogance. Every representative sat in silence, their various forms of eyes fixed on the empty space where Earth's ambassador would stand. High Chancellor Vortek no longer sat on his throne of bones. The throne had been destroyed. The bones returned to their species for proper burial. He sat on a simple chair, his forearms folded in submission, his scales permanently shifted to the gray of defeat. The Void Singers did not float near the ceiling. They huddled near the floor, their crystalline bodies dim and cracked. Their eternal song had stopped. For beings that had sung for 10,000 years, the silence was deafening. The Celestari remained in their pools, but the liquid metal around them churned with anxiety. The Draconians stood at attention, not as conquerors, but as the conquered. Every great power that had once mocked Earth now waited in fear. Ambassador Chen entered the chamber. The same woman they had laughed at 3 days ago. She walked with the same measured pace, carried the same datapad, wore the same simple suit, but now everyone knew what stood behind her. Ladies, gentlemen, and various other forms of sapient life, Chen began. 3 days ago, you voted to abandon Earth. You classified us as non-essential. The Krathic Empire announced plans to enslave our population. You laughed when I warned you about mistaking our kindness for weakness. She paused, looking around the chamber. No one is laughing now. Behind her, a hologram appeared. The Prometheus hung in space, its impossible bulk a reminder of humanity's true power. This ship represents 3,000 years of human development. Chen continued. 3,000 years of watching, learning, preparing. We mastered hyperspace travel before your oldest civilizations discovered fire. We could have conquered the galaxy 100 times over. Instead, we chose to remain hidden, to develop our technology and our society in peace. The Zephyr Collective representative, a hive mind speaking through a mechanical avatar, raised a metal hand. Why reveal yourselves now? Why join the council 50 years ago if you had such power? To test you, Chen said simply. To see if the galaxy's powers had evolved beyond might makes right. To see if peaceful coexistence was possible. You failed that test spectacularly. She touched her datapad. New holograms appeared, showing star maps. During our 3,000 years of hidden development, we did more than build weapons. We established colonies in the void between galaxies. We have cities in dark space that your sensors cannot detect. We have research stations in pocket dimensions. Our true population is not the 11 billion on Earth, but 500 billion spread across hidden worlds. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The scale of the deception was staggering. We watched as the Krathek conquered peaceful worlds, Chen continued. We watched as the Draconians burned entire civilizations for refusing to submit. We watched as the Void Singers and Celestari, with all their ancient wisdom, did nothing to stop it. We hoped that joining the council might change things, that our art and philosophy might inspire you to be better. Her voice hardened. Instead, you saw our offerings of peace as weakness. You prepared to do to us what you had done to so many others. So now we show you strength. Vortek found his voice. What? What do you want? You've won. Our fleets are defeated. Our weapons are useless. Do you mean to conquer us as we meant to conquer you? Chen smiled, but it held no warmth. If we wanted to conquer you, we would have done it centuries ago. No, we have different plans. She touched her pad again. A document appeared in holographic form. Pages and pages of text in every known language. These are Earth's terms for the new Galactic Order, she announced. First, the immediate dissolution of all military alliances based on species superiority. No more empires built on conquered worlds. Every system gets to choose its own government. The Krathek delegation shifted uncomfortably. 300 systems, suddenly free to leave their empire. Second, Chen continued, mandatory sharing of medical and agricultural technology. The Celestari have cures for diseases that plague half the galaxy. The Void Singers know how to grow food in zero gravity with minimal resources. This knowledge will be shared freely. But that technology is proprietary, a Celestari began. Your property rights end where suffering begins. Chen cut them off. Third, establishment of a neutral peacekeeping force, not controlled by the powerful but by a coalition of what you call primitive worlds. Those you dismissed as non-essential will now keep the peace. The implications hit everyone at once. The species they had ignored, mocked, conquered would now have authority over them. Fourth, Chen said, equal representation in the council regardless of technological level or military might. One world, one vote. No weighted systems based on fleet size or territory controlled. This is revolution, General Thrace growled. Yes, Chen agreed. It is. And fifth, immediate reparations to all conquered or exploited worlds. The Krathek Empire will return all seized territory and pay compensation for damages. The Draconians will rebuild the worlds they burned. The Void Singers and Celestari will provide technology and resources to uplift species they allowed to suffer. And if we refuse? Vortek asked, though his voice held no defiance, only desperate curiosity. Chen gestured to the image of the Prometheus. That ship is currently in orbit of every one of your homeworlds simultaneously. Same ship, multiple locations. We've demonstrated its capabilities. Do you really want to test what happens if you refuse? Silence filled the chamber. There's more, Chen said. We know about the hidden atrocities. The Krathek death camps on Kepler 442. The draconian bioweapons tested on pre-spaceflight species. The Void Singer experiments on sapient beings. The Celestari's hoarding of life extension technology while other species die of old age at 30. Each accusation landed like a physical blow. Secrets that had been kept for millennia suddenly exposed. War crimes tribunals will be established, Chen announced. Those responsible for atrocities will face justice, not execution. Humans gave up the death penalty centuries ago, but imprisonment and rehabilitation. The eldest Void Singer found its voice, a weak chime compared to its former strength. You speak of justice, but what you're doing is revenge. No, Chen said firmly. Revenge would be doing to you what you did to others. Destroying your worlds, enslaving your populations, taking your resources. We're not doing any of that. We're simply ending your ability to do it to others. She pulled up another display. The Prometheus will remain active, not as a conqueror, but as a guardian. Any attempt to return to the old ways, any species trying to build empires through force will face it. And as you've learned, one ship is enough. For how long? The eldest Celestari asked. How long will humanity hold this power over us? Until you prove you don't need a guardian anymore, Chen replied. It might be decades, centuries, or millennia. That's up to you. Ambassador Chen looked around the room one more time. You have 24 hours to formally accept these terms. Given what you've seen, I trust there won't be any delays. She started to leave, then stopped at the door just as she had 3 days ago. You know what the saddest part is? She said, not turning around. If you had simply voted to protect Earth, none of this would have happened. We would have continued sharing our art and philosophy. The Prometheus would have remained hidden. You would have kept your empires, your power, your pride. All we asked for was the protection promised in your own charter. She turned to face them. But you couldn't even give us that. You had to mock us, threaten us, prepare to enslave us. So now you get to live with the consequences. The galaxy's new guardian is the species you called primitive. The new peace will be enforced by those you called weak. Think about that while you're drafting your letters of surrender. Chen left the chamber. Behind her, 47 civilizations sat in stunned silence. The most powerful species in the galaxy, reduced to accepting terms from a world they had dismissed as nothing. Within an hour, the surrenders began arriving. The Krothic Empire 300 systems unconditional surrender. The Draconians, fortress worlds that had never been breached, complete capitulation. The Void Singers, the Celestari, the Hegemony, the Collective. One by one they all submitted. Not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. The Prometheus hung over their worlds like the sword of ancient Earth mythology, ready to fall if they stepped out of line. The revolution had begun, and it had taken humanity just 3 days to complete it. 1 month had passed since the Prometheus changed everything. Admiral Sarah Reeves stood in the observation deck of the great ship, looking down at a world that had never known freedom until now. Kepler 442b, which the Krothic had called Mining Colony 7, now bore its original name, Haven World, as chosen by its native population. Below, celebrations continued. The insect-like Kepler natives, who had been slaves for 300 years, danced in their traditional patterns. Their translucent wings caught the light of their binary suns, creating rainbow patterns across the cities the Krothic had forced them to build. Now those cities belonged to them again. Admiral, her aide said, entering the observation deck. The council reconstruction meeting begins in an hour. Reeves nodded but didn't turn away from the window. How many worlds have declared independence from the Krothic Empire? 212 so far. The remaining systems are choosing to stay, but as equals, not as conquered territories. Vortek has agreed to democratic elections. He's actually campaigning, trying to win votes instead of taking them by force. Good. What about the Draconians? 17 of their burned worlds have been restored to habitability. General Thrace is personally overseeing the reconstruction. He's been working 20-hour days. Says it's a matter of honor. Reeves smiled slightly. Honor? A month ago, his definition of honor was how many enemies he could kill. Now it's how many lives he can rebuild. Progress. She finally turned from the window. The Prometheus was currently orbiting 12 different worlds simultaneously, its quantum nature allowing it to be everywhere it was needed. Each version was fully functional, fully armed, fully aware. It had taken humanity 800 years to perfect the technology, another 1,000 to build the ship. Time well spent. The new Galactic Council chamber looked different. The ostentatious displays of power were gone. No floating platforms to show superiority. No thrones of conquered bones. Just a circular room where every representative sat at the same level, each with one vote, each with an equal voice. The old powers were still there, but changed. Vortek attended not as emperor, but as the elected representative of the 12 Krothic core worlds. His scales had developed new patterns, colors that hadn't been seen in his species for millennia. Humility, the xenobiologist said. The Krothic had evolved the ability to show humility, but centuries of conquest had suppressed it. The Void Singers had resumed their song, but it was different now. Where once it had been a hymn to their own superiority, now it harmonized with the sounds of other species. The youngest Void Singer had started teaching their crystalline manipulation techniques to anyone who wanted to learn. Knowledge that had been hoarded for 10,000 years, now shared freely. The Celestari had emerged from their pools. Their true forms, hidden for so long, turned out to be surprisingly small. 5 feet tall, silvery skin, large eyes that held ancient wisdom. They had hidden in liquid metal out of fear, they admitted. Fear that their physical weakness would make them targets. Now they walked openly, protected not by deception but by law. General Thrace of the Draconians had undergone the most dramatic change. The warrior who had never known defeat had become the galaxy's most enthusiastic supporter of the new peace. He had publicly burned his collection of war trophies and converted his fortress world into a training center for the new peacekeeping force. But the biggest change was the presence of those who had never been allowed in the council before. The mushroom colonies of Proxima, who had been classified as non-sapient despite their collective intelligence. The ocean dwellers of Titan II, who had been ignored because they had no technology, only profound philosophy. The machine minds of the asteroid belt, who had been denied recognition because they were artificial. Ambassador Chen called the session to order. She had been elected as the temporary chair, a role that would rotate among all members. First item, she announced, the progress report on technology sharing. The Celestari representative stood. Without their liquid metal shield, their voice was soft but clear. We have distributed the life extension treatments to 43 species. Average lifespan in these populations has already increased by 300%. We estimate full distribution across all known species within 2 years. The Void Singers have shared our zero-gravity agriculture, another chimed. 17 space-based civilizations that were dependent on expensive food imports are now self-sufficient. Medical databases are fully integrated, the Zephyr Collective added. Every known cure for every known disease is now accessible to all. Death rates have dropped by half in the past month alone. Chen nodded. Second item, the war crimes tribunals. The room grew tense. This was the hardest part, holding the powerful accountable for centuries of atrocities. 347 individuals have been tried, Chen reported. All have been found guilty of various crimes against sapients. As agreed, no death penalties, rehabilitation and community service. Former General Crix of the Krathek, who ordered the Beta Z genocide, is now working in the Beta Z refugee camps. He will continue for the next 50 years. He could have refused, Vortex said quietly. We gave all war criminals the option of imprisonment instead of service. None have chosen imprisonment, Chen noted. It seems facing their victims and working to repair the damage has been educational. Third item, Chen continued, the peacekeeping force. A new figure stood. Captain Zara, a human who had been selected to train the new force. But she wasn't alone. Beside her stood representatives from 20 species that had been considered primitive just a month ago. Training is ahead of schedule, Zara reported. The primitive species have shown remarkable aptitude for peacekeeping. Perhaps because they remember what it's like to be powerless, they're more committed to protecting others. The mantis-like representative from Kepler spoke up. We who were slaves understand freedom's value. We who were conquered know conquest's cost. We will not let it happen again to anyone. The Prometheus continues its watch, Admiral Reeves added, her hologram appearing in the chamber. We've prevented 7 attempts to return to the old ways, 2 Krathek splinter groups trying to maintain their slave operations, 3 draconian warlords attempting to seize power, and 2 Void Singer sects trying to hoard technology. All stopped without violence. The mere appearance of the Prometheus was enough. For how long? Asked a new voice. It was the representative from Earth's Mars colony. How long will we need to be guardians? Chen looked around the room. Until the guardians are no longer needed. Until the strong protecting the weak becomes natural, not forced. Until sharing resources becomes instinct, not law. That could take forever, the Celestari representative said. Or it could take a generation, Chen replied. That's up to all of you. She pulled up a final display. It showed a map of the galaxy, but not like the old maps that showed territories and empires. This one showed connections. Trade routes based on mutual benefit, not exploitation. Cultural exchanges between species that had been enemies for millennia. Research collaborations between those who had hoarded knowledge and those who had been denied it. This is what we're building, Chen said. Not a human empire, not revenge, not even justice, really. Just a chance for the galaxy to be what it could have been if strength had been used to protect instead of conquer. The session continued for hours. Problems were discussed, solutions proposed. Former enemies worked together. Former slaves sat as equals with their former masters. It wasn't perfect. There was still resentment, still fear, still those who longed for the old ways. But there was also hope. Later, Admiral Reeves stood again at her observation window. The Prometheus was currently at Earth, or rather one version of it was. Earth looked the same as it had a month ago. No grand monuments to their victory. No conquered species serving them. Children still played in parks. Artists still painted. Musicians still composed. Life went on. Her communication screen activated. It was her daughter calling from Earth. Hi, Mom. When are you coming home? Soon, sweetheart. Just a little more work to do. Are the aliens still scared of us? Reeves thought about the question. Some are. But fear is turning into respect, and respect might become friendship. Eventually. Good, I want to meet a void singer. Their crystal bodies look pretty. Maybe you will one day. After the call ended, Reeves remained at the window. In the distance, she could see ships from a dozen species, traveling freely, no longer afraid of conquest or enslavement. The Prometheus hung among them, not as a threat but as a promise. A promise that the strong would protect the weak, that knowledge would be shared, that the galaxy's future would be different from its past. Humanity had spent 3,000 years preparing for this moment. Not to conquer, but to prevent conquest. Not to rule, but to ensure no one else could rule through force. They had shown the galaxy what one species could do with enough time, enough knowledge, and enough determination. They had broken the cycle of might makes right that had dominated for millennia, and they had done it in just 3 days. The title history would remember was accurate. The day Earth raised its planet-killer warship, and civilizations collapsed and begged for mercy. But the subtitle, the one future generations would focus on, told the real story, and chose to grant it.